All right, so Caymanas Park horse racing, the 1,000 Guineas live from Caymanas Park on Saturday, 4 p.m., 5 p.m. ECT, starring Lance Whitaker as we look at the first classic of the racing season in Jamaica. And the 1,000 Guineas field, don't move that graphic, Mr. Man. Glock and Philip Parchment, Attorney General Aaron Chatry, number 3 striking lady Kieman McGregor, Shibum and Omar Walker, Basilicus and D. Thompson, Versatile Vision, Shane Ellis, Sensity, R. Lewis, Ryan Lewis, Fantastic Feeling and S. Ellis, Another Prosecutor, C. Mamdeen, Speechless, T. Foster, Another Affair, Robert Halladine, Suasion, Andre Martin, Sensational Satin, David, well, the Dane Dawkins, beg your pardon, and Dane Nelson, yeah, the Danes, Above and Beyond, number 14 for Baba Nunes. In fact, let me count these, lads. Did you say 6? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 horses Anthony Nunes has in the 1,000 Guineas. So he has 5 of the 14 horses. It should be a very, very competitive event. Who's your idea of the winner, Lance?
Above and Beyond, based on the exercise gallops, George, looks pretty strong. But it could be an open race because the horse didn't run that well the last time out, did it?
Yeah, I didn't like the last performance at all.
Although it was allowing weight to colts.
Yes.
So you have to consider that as well.
Yes, that's for sure. Can I take liberties, Mr. Producer, and do the 2,000 Guineas field as well? Why not? Rum With Me, number 1. Paul Francis for Gary Sobrati. Number 2, Old Dwarf. Amethro Blaze for Gary Sobrati. He must be hurting, not riding the anti-post favorite. Number 3, Den, Shane Ellis for Anthony Nunes. 4, KD Rocket, Aaron Chatter for Gary Sobrati. Double Crown runs out of number 5, Gate 5, Omar Walker for Ian Prasad. Wow, the hot favorite, Robert Halladine for Gary Sobrati. Javanil Patterson rides number 7, High Diplomacy for Patrick Wacky Lynch, the trainer. Royal Approach, Philip Parchment and Anthony Nunes. Nipster, Dane Nelson for Gary Sobrati. Linton Stedman has the leg up on Green Gold Rush for Philip Elliott. Anthony Thomas, he rides Tomahawk for Wayne DaCosta. He runs from Gate 11. And in Gate 12, that's where my idea of the winner will come from. Mahogany, Dane Dawkins for Ian Prasad. My concern, though, is about the youngster, Dane Dawkins. I don't know if he will be bustling enough if this goes down to a close finish. For sure, Halladine will be busting. And I'm hoping that the jockey, Dane Dawkins, who is talented, a talented young rider and a fine young man, that he can rise to the occasion and be at his best to assist Mahogany in this event. Your idea of the winner?
I'm not calling it yet. Very, very, very tough to call this one. I like Mahogany, actually. But Wow is a special horse, George. I'm not sure what's going to happen on Sunday.
What do you mean by special?
Wow?
Yeah.
10 straight.
10 straight.
And hasn't looked like losing any race it has won.
All right, I'm just teasing. He is a very special animal. A credit to his connections, his trainer, Gary Sobrati, and his owner, Michael Mycross Bernard. Mahogany, Tomahawk, Wow. Pick one, Mariah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I heard Wow is extremely disciplined, and I mean, I'm going with Lance. Lance is horse racing boss. He's around these horses all the time. So Wow is my pick.
All right. All right, there you go. All right. Today marks the one-year countdown to the start of the rescheduled 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. Were it not for COVID-19, the games would have gotten underway on Friday, and Lance would be commentating. So, in an empty and dark national stadium in Japan, junior world champion Rikako Aiki, dressed in white, there she is, acted as the symbol of hope for the games as she retrieved the Olympic flame. In this time of Me Too, many people have a difficulty with that characterization, white being hope. Anyway, Aiki, a cancer survivor, she's a leukemia victim, a patient rather. She was considered a strong medal contender for the Olympics before her diagnosis. And in her message, she spoke about the similarities between her comeback to the sport and the COVID-19 pandemic. The 20-year-old encouraging athletes not to dwell on past disappointments and not to be too down about the fact that the Olympics postponed from this summer to the next. Well, various venues that will host events next year, including the newly built Ariake Arena, were lit up in the Olympic colors to mark the occasion. And in a speech, the president of the IOC, Thomas Bach, said Tokyo 2020 can be a symbol of hope for all.
The milestone of the 1 year to go is a very significant one for sport, but also for the worldwide society. It can and will be the great comeback festival of sport to the international scene. And there we are preparing for this in the 1 year which remains us. to make these Olympic Games then a real great festival of hope, of resilience, and of solidarity. These Olympic Games, Tokyo 2020 in 21, can, should, and will be the light at the end of the tunnel where all humankind is in at this moment. We are living a period of great uncertainty. And then at the end of this very difficult period for humankind, the Olympic Games can be a great symbol there of hope, of optimism, of solidarity, and of the unity in all our diversity.
I began this week talking about known knowns and known unknowns. We don't know what conditions will exist next summer, but the Olympics, the organizers are planning as if everything will be all right. Isn't that the right approach?
Definitely, and I think, George, because of the use of the word hope, it's all we can really do, because none of us expected, I didn't expect a pandemic. Nobody saw COVID-19 coming. So I think the choice of the use of symbol of hope, all we can do is hope and continue to plan. It's just like how we live. We live every day not knowing if a car will come run over me, or if something will happen tomorrow, but you just live with the hope that it will be fine. So I think they're doing the right thing, preparations are on the way. Obviously, it's not the type of preparations that we would have seen, the glitz and the glamour, but they continue to plan, athletes continue to train, and I just wish this all goes away and we have a proper Olympics.
Yeah, I rate the staging of the Olympics for next year summer at about 50-50 at the moment. We aren't sure what's going to happen. Mariah is right, and George, in the opening segment, or in part of the segment, spoke about, we can only hope about what the future holds for the Olympic Games. But I would think it's a 50-50 at the moment. There is a chance that the Games could be staged, yes, but there is an equal chance that it may not be held. At the moment, we have 15.6 million COVID-19 cases worldwide, over 630,000 deaths, and in many parts of the world, the cases aren't slowing down.
Yeah.
So we're not sure what's going to be happening November, December, going into the new year. So we're going to go back into the same sequence that we did last year, when during March and the early part of March, we were there wondering, awaiting the IOC announcements, following all of the press conferences and so on, what the decision would be. And I just think we're heading into the same cycle where the organizers will want to carry the decision as late as possible before, conclusively saying yes or no to these Olympic Games.
But Lance and George, isn't that how we live our life every day? Hoping, not knowing what tomorrow will bring?
Not quite. Well, not for me. The thing is, you have to plan, because some people live on a hope and a prayer. You make no facilitation, no preparation for something to happen down the road. You just wake up tomorrow and whatever the day brings, you try to work through all that. Other people have to plan to affect outcomes on the day, outcomes that they anticipate based on the preparation they would have put in, or based on the arrangements that they're made. And that's just the difficulty. The thing is this, were this a purely professional pursuit, I am in no doubt that the Olympics would happen next year.
Yeah.
The difficulty is because most of the disciplines under the banner of the Olympics are amateur pursuits, which need and demand an audience there in the arena to watch the performers compete. I mean, you can pick a sport at random, pick a discipline at random,
right,
and ask if that's a professional pursuit. No, it's a part-time thing. And that's what the Olympics is about. It's different from everything else, which is a purely profit-driven professional pursuit. The Olympics is special because of this distinction. Now, if it were a professional pursuit, it would be simple for the organizers to put it together, simple relatively speaking, of course, put it on the TV, make their money, satisfy their sponsors, and move on. But because it is so much more than a professional pursuit, that's why we're having the difficulty. But guess what? I think that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. In the same way we've seen basketball coming back on Thursday, horse racing has been back in some parts of the USA, it never left. Cricket is back, West Indies and England, and so many things coming back. The organizers, what they will have to do is treat each competition, each event, as a mini event, a standalone event by itself. have the organizers for that competition, the badminton, the fencing, the archery, everything, you have to treat it like an isolated competition, even though it's a part of the bigger whole. So the COVID-19 protocols, the biosecurity around the event, the management of the crowd interaction, if you're having spectators, all of that, it has to be done as individual silos. You always hear people talk about not working in silos. Well, in some respects, for the Olympics to happen next year, if conditions prevail, you have to work in silos, get every organizing team to treat their event like a mini event by itself, put it together in the whole, and have the Olympics happen. Because the quarantine requirements for the athletes themselves is going to be on a scale not attempted before, because of course nothing is as big as the Olympics. It can happen if that mindset is adopted, and knowing the people that are behind the organizing from the level of the IOC to the local level in Tokyo, I am certain that that is the approach they'll be taking to make it happen next year if things don't get much better than we have it at the present.
Definitely, George. And you make it sound, I mean, when you spoke about segmenting all the different sports, it sounds so easy, but these are so many different countries. Like earlier today, I was listening to an interview from a Brazilian swimmer, Ana Kunan. They finally, Brazil, let's just start there, it's one of the countries second most infected in the world. And, you know, she said that she felt so good to just be able to go back in the pool, but she's still very nervous because, you know, it's like 11,000 plus people that's going to be going to this one venue. And, you know, for her, she has a lot of reservations. So as much as it's easy to say that let's segment everything and treat it like that, it still doesn't take away from the fact that, you know, these athletes are coming from from countries that are infected so greatly, because as I said, Brazil, second most infected. And then you're coming to be, I don't know, to be mixing with other people. How does it really work, and how feasible would it really be?
Well, it's not that it's easy, because the level of difficulty associated with even with putting together something under normal circumstances, it's difficult, but we're talking about getting it done. And if you have a mindset of getting the thing done, then you will see only possibilities. If you are the pessimist, you'll see everything wrong with what you're trying to do, and you won't get anything done. I'm saying that for an event like this, where you have to have strict health protocols and security, then you have to segment and compartmentalize, because that's the only way you're going to get it. You're not going to get it. So this whole idea of an athlete's village, which everybody mingling, I don't think that can work. Right. You may have to have separate areas for each individual sport. So you may group sports together, a group of 3, depending on the size or the number of competitors in each one. Those are just some of the things that they will have to go through, because again, it's contact that COVID-19 thrives on. Contact between people, because that's how it's spread. So if you can limit contact, and then within the groups that you establish, have the protocols that will keep everybody relatively safe. And remember, it only takes one positive test to make this thing to come crashing down. It's a very dangerous thing. If it can't work, like Lance said, it won't be even 50-50.
So George, then that takes away from the fans, right? Your plan doesn't include any fans, spectators, nothing like that.
It would involve a controlled number of fans. I don't know how those fans are selected. I think that would be the easy part, because you could restrict the number of tickets that you provide to certain events.
Finances.
And in venues that are larger, you can have more fans. Well, you can have fans spread out around the venue. Smaller venues, you restrict the numbers. So it would be restricting the number of fans dependent on the size of the venue or the nature of the event. But my plan does still have some fan interaction, because without the fans, it's not the Olympics. That's the point I was making at the top, that the Olympics is unique. It's not a professional pursuit.
Yeah, well, the organizers and the IOC, they have spoken several times in the past couple of months since the announcement of the postponement to next year's summer, that we have to prepare ourselves for an Olympics that will not look like the Olympic Games of the past. And they've used terms like scaled down. Now, to what level, I'm not sure, because the chief organizer, or the head of the organizing committee, only in the last 24 hours says he does not favor staging the Olympic Games without spectators at the venues. So George mentioned something about just now having spectators, but a controlled number. But the chief organizer is suggesting that any sort of empty kind of stadia or venue atmosphere, he's not in favor of. So while they are trying their best to stage the Olympics and would want the Olympics to go on as best as it could, there are some possibilities that look unfavorable to them at the moment, whether it goes ahead or not.
And I think he would say that with in mind, in the back of his mind, they've already paid for these 42 venues. I think they would have probably have to pay for it twice now, seeing that they're keeping it booked for a longer period of time. And of course, now if they have minimum number of fans, the same thing Georgia said about ticket sales, and then you don't really make back any money. So I think in the back of his mind, his push for fans would definitely be thinking from a financial standpoint.
Just to add to that, ticket sales account for a small portion of the overall revenue for the Olympics. And it's not, the profit imperative is not that important, because in the history of the Olympics, only one Olympics has made a profit, and that was the 1984 Games in Los Angeles. Every other Olympic Games has operated at a loss, but it's more than the profit imperative that motivates cities around the world to bid for the Olympics, even though they know that this is going to be a loss maker.
Yeah, as we go to break, remember to catch the premiere of Tokyo Dream, a half-hour documentary on the 2020 Olympic Games at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time on SportsMax 2.
This is a dream success for a city, even if it comes with risks. The ambition to pull off hosting a global sporting phenomenon which has the eyes of almost 4 billion people.
The Olympics as a sporting spectacle has no equal.
It's held every 4 years, so there is a significance. And when you're arrived at the Olympic Games, you somewhat feel like you've arrived in the sport.
The Olympics is the pinnacle of our sport, and that's what most of us tend to set our goals and sights on. It's what athletes live for. It's their objective, it's their goal. They wake up every day, they train, and they prepare themselves for something that gives them an opportunity only once every 4 years to achieve their dreams.
We're back on the SportsMax Zone. Of course, the Olympic Games postponed from 2020 because of COVID-19 and will be staged next year instead. Of course, the Olympics, were it not suspended, would have been starting on Friday, and we would be on the eve of discussing the biggest sporting event on the global calendar. Now, before the action gets underway in Tokyo, this is the 400-meter hurdler from the British Virgin Islands who, as we said, was planning to get himself ready for the Olympic Games. He is the reigning Commonwealth Games 400-meter hurdles champion. Kyron McMaster narrowly missed out on a medal at the 2019 Doha World Championship, where he placed fourth. Tokyo 2021 will be McMaster's first Olympic Games. Welcome to the SportsMax Zone, Kyron.
Hey, thank you guys very much for having me. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on, Kyron. We know that from the British Virgin Islands, you are the flag bearer at the moment as far as World Track and Field is concerned, and we congratulate you for that. What is your feeling now looking back on the past few months of the inactivity caused by COVID-19 and the bigger story of the Olympics being postponed? Where do you sit at the moment, and how do you look ahead to refocusing for an Olympic Games a whole year from now, that at the moment we aren't even 100% sure that it will happen?
For me, I look at it as a blessing in disguise, because Father God, He has everything already written in stone as to what's going to happen. And I just look at this as something that was already planned to happen. So there's nothing much we could have done about it. But in terms of track and field, I look at it as a way to put myself in a better position in terms of contesting the medal at a better range. So for me, this is an opportunity for me to work harder, double down on whatever I was doing. I started off the season great, but I knew I could do it even better. So for me, this is just a blessing to actually contest the medal better, to be honest.
Yeah, Kyron, talk to us about the fact that you are at the moment representing a force in world track and field from a small part of the world. From the Eastern Caribbean, we'd seen Kirani James and Kim Collins achieve world level performances from small islands, and you're carrying the force now for the BVI. What does that mean to you as you try to refocus and sort of get your mind away from what COVID has caused and the stuttering of the track and field landscape as you prepare for the Olympics next year?
It is a big baggage to carry, but I don't see it as a baggage. I just see it as something that I've took the responsibility to do since 2017 when I've turned professional. So it comes with the game that we've decided to play, and for me, it's just going out there and giving it the best at that moment. So yes, it is a big deal for me coming from a small country, but at the same time, small country but bigger hat, you feel me? So that's just what it is.
Yeah, we've seen, Kyron, where a lot of the world's elite athletes are using this summer period to keep themselves competitive. We've seen some pretty outstanding performances as well. What are you doing with your summer as you try to come out of this COVID-19 stutter?
I mean, for the most part, like everyone else, I can't speak for everyone else. There was a point of time this year where we had to completely stop training because of where I live and what's not. But we got back into rhythm, and we just been maintaining shape and just doing stuff to make sure that the body recognizes that we are still trying to keep in shape, but at the same time, we just using it as a resting period as well, and just refocusing my mind mentally and just doing stuff to make sure that when the next season comes, that we could actually pressure the body some more and actually put the body or fix the body right now to handle the pressure that's going to come next year.
Yeah, your training base is in the USA, isn't it? So you're not very much in the BVI, are you?
No. I've been trying to go back, but because of the COVID-19, there's been stipulation in place, and the stipulation that the country has put in place, I wouldn't be able to fit it into my schedule and still have a progression of which we want to achieve.
And as you look at some of your rivals and the sort of strides that a lot of your competitors have been making during this period, does it give you the kind of impetus or the sort of focus to ensure that you use the remainder of the year to get back to where you were? Because I've seen at least a couple of athletes suggest that the Olympics being postponed is a little better for them because it gives them more time to be at their best.
Yeah, I mean, I won't say I follow my competitors' race or my competitors' result. Obviously, I mean, I am on social media, so I will stumble upon it. But for the most part, I don't let my competitors dictate how my mind is, or I don't let anyone dictate how my focus is. I'm mentally focused, and I'll be physically focused with or without them. Even if they decided to quit track or whatever the case is, and I continue, my mind will still be focused. So if they go there and run a world record tomorrow, well, you ran it tomorrow, but you would have to actually contest for it on the day that we run together, where I would be in the field. So it's fine and dandy if you do it now, and that's cool, but there's still next year, and yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, well, Kyron, we want to congratulate you first of all on the strides that you have made as an international star athlete. We remember you coming onto the stage as a teenager, gaining global attention at the World Juniors. Since then, Commonwealth Games gold, CAC gold, and also NACAC gold. Keep up the good work, Kyron McMaster, and we'll be following your career very closely.
Thank you very much for having me, and you guys have a blessed day and continue to do the work that you do.
Yeah, Kyron McMaster, someone that really makes us proud here in the Caribbean, George. And Mariah, he's from the very tiny island of the British Virgin Islands. Their neighbors, the US Virgin Islands, we know produced Tim Duncan, the San Antonio NBA star. But these are very, very small islands that from time to time produce global stars, and it's something we have to continue recognizing.
What I like about his interview, Lance, is the fact that he's very focused, and he didn't let the pandemic get to his mindset. He's focused, he's ready to go again. As I said at the top of the show, reset the clock. He's ready to reset, and he's not letting anything deter him. So I wish him best of luck when he competes in the Tokyo 2020 Olympics.
As we go to break, remember to catch the premiere of Tokyo Dream, our half-hour documentary on the Tokyo Olympic Games. You'll see that at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time tonight on SportsMax 2. You have grown to know what an Olympic Games is and what it represents, and the sort of culture and the atmosphere, the mingling, the camaraderie and so on. Now, in 2001, when we had 9/11, that completely changed the security outlook on Olympic Games.
I am confident that the Greek government is paying all necessary attention to this aspect of the preparation of the Games. And also on our side, we have experts from previous Games working very closely with the Greek government and the advisory groups of countries which are helping Greece to master the problem of security.
So Athens 2004 gave us an Olympic Games that we had never experienced before. Almost every point that you went to, you were scanned and you had metal detectors and so on. So I think 2004 was a sort of a transition into a new way of the Olympic Games because of what 9/11 and the security fears and the terrorist fears had served up for us as an Olympic community. So if I think about COVID now, I'm seeing where we're going to have to get our mindsets, in a manner of speaking, shifted